Overseas staff exploited and trapped at a UK care home. We're going to read into this from the BBC, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is REGANELITE here with an article from the BBC with the headline that overseas staff have been exploited and trapped at a UK care home. Care home staff have told the BBC they feel exploited and trapped by the firm that brought them to the UK to work. Now, obviously, before we read into it, obviously this is an undercover Panorama story that has been found, and this makes me worry about how many other staff are being exploited here by the British care system. Why this is happening and how this is happening, there's lots of questions that need to be answered. Now, of course, we have to remember that with all the talk about immigration and how people are being treated just because they're not British or they're not white, and that kind of a threshold that we're hearing a lot of, which is really, really damning to say the least. It just kind of compounds more of problems and issues that we have in the United Kingdom here. To be trapped against their will and not given a way out, I feel really, what's the right words? I just feel really bad. I'm really sad about this because, to be in the care sector to help those, whether it's for children or whether it's for elders or for people with disabilities, whatever care sector you work in, it takes a great deal. It takes you need to have a really strong mind, and you have to have a really good heart, and you really have to put the care, and you have to really give up a lot of your own time to be there for that person. And you have to put on a face sometimes, because even when you have crap days, you've got to put on a face. You have to be passionate about a job like this. It's an extremely difficult job. It can be extremely hard. There can be days when you're feeling really, really crap, but you go in and you put a smile on your face or whatever, and you just try to be that person for that person who needs you. And it's hard for them. Whether you're British or whether you're from abroad, it's a very difficult job, and I absolutely applaud anyone who works in the care sector who does this. It is a difficult job, to say the least. But to be exploited, as what we're about to read into here, is absolutely shameful, because it's anything but an easy job to look after people, not just in the UK but anywhere in general. So care home staff have told the BBC they feel exploited and trapped by the firm that brought them to the UK to work. So employees at Prestwick Care told an undercover Panorama reporter that they believe their contracts prevented them from leaving. The BBC investigation also saw low staffing levels, which health professionals said put vulnerable residents at risk. Prestwick Care denies any suggestion of systematic wrongdoing or bad practice. An undercover reporter of Panorama took a job as a care assistant at the Addison Court in Crawcrook, to the west of Gateshead, one of 15 care homes in the northeast of England owned by Prestwick Care. He worked there from September to November this year, after hearing allegations from local health professionals about conditions in their homes. Addison Court is home to more than 50 elderly people, with weekly fees averaging about £1,100. These are paid for either by local authorities, the NHS, their residents, or the families. Like many care homes in the UK, Addison Court relies heavily on workers from overseas. Yeah, so obviously they denied that they've done anything wrong. But some are saying that they have contracts which basically means that they can't leave, and others are thinking, well, how is that possible? Exactly. I'm curious to know what's in the contracts that they've had to sign or been forced to sign to say that they can't leave. I'm curious to know why that's been the case. And they were saying there's a systematic wrong. They've not done. It's very important. We have to stress this is allegations, because they are saying wrongdoing or bad practices. So there's obviously going to be more to this to come, obviously. But still, it's really damning. There was I think you guys remember, there was a story a while back we had about one care home where the people in there were deeply treated appallingly by the care workers. I don't know, I can't remember the private company behind it, but they got really shafted pretty hard by the government, and there was an outcry of anger, and the people and obviously relatives and that of those care workers there just felt shocked and dismayed. And these private companies who run the care sectors, they really need to put under the spotlight. Really need to be kept under a significant microscope to be checked to see what they should be doing. Is they should be doing, I don't know how the as of right now, I don't know how they do checks and that, but they need to be vigorous when it comes to the care workers, um, and the way these private companies in particular excuse me, are handling it. I think it's really, really important. It should be random visits as well. In the year of September 2023, 140,000 visas were issued for overseas health and care workers who come to the UK, more than double the previous year. Of these, 39,000 were issued to people from India. Nurses and care workers from overseas are eligible for a skilled worker visa. That means that they can work in the UK, but they need to be sponsored by an employer. If they leave their job, they have 60 days to find another suitable post, otherwise they will have to return to their home country. Concerns have been raised about the powers this gives employers. If you are in this position of power as a boss, you can exert coercive control over an individual, says Andrew Wallace of the anti-exploitation charity Unseen. Prestwick Care employs about 180 overseas workers who are in the UK on visas, nearly a third of its staff base. One Indian nurse told reporters that she was unhappy in her job, but she felt she could not quit because her visa was sponsored by the company, and she believed that she had no choice. I can't get out of here. If I was back at home, I could at least resign, but here I just can't walk away, she explained. Prestwick does not make life easy for those overseas nurses who have chosen to quit the company. Ahmed, not his real name, came to the UK from the southern Indian state of Kerala in 2018. When he arrived, he was asked to sign a contract. It said that if he left the company within 5 years, he would have to pay Prestwick Care more than £4,000, including the money the company had already paid to the Home Office and the legal fees for his visa. What? What a scam! So he'd have to pay £4,000 plus all the money that was paid for to get him here as well? That's... According to the Department of Health and Social Care, the DHSC Code of Conduct, staff should not have to pay for these costs. No, they shouldn't. This is essentially blackmail. Like, this is essentially pushing them into slave labor in a way, because they can't get out of this contract if this is true. Ahmed said he was told, if you don't want to stay here on that contract, you can go back to India. Well, if you put it like that, you're going to force them into signing it. He said he felt Prestwick Care was trying to prevent him leaving, but nevertheless resigned after being offered a more senior role at a care home run by another company. Prestwick Care then started legal action against Ahmed, claiming that he owed the company more than £5,000. But you said £4,000. He then called Borik Mahora, CEO of the Mahora Group, which owns Prestwick Care. He told Ahmed, what you have done is immoral, unethical and terrible. Ahmed was also told a clause in his contract stopped him from working in any other competitive care home for 6 months. What? That's so outrageous. That's so disgusting. Linda was a solicitor. She said that this clause would not be upheld by a court or tribunal, and says it was simply there to serve a purpose of making nurses and senior care assistants trapped in their situation. The legal action against Ahmed was eventually settled by his new employer. Andrew Wallace of Unseen said that loading workers with debt is used as a means to control an unscrupulous bosses. Prestwick Care denies that its contracts are designed to intimidate its employers and said it is now reviewing repayment clauses in all its staff contracts. For some of the staff at Addison Court, the situation was made worse by the fact that they also paid between £6,000 and £10,000 for their visa through a recruitment agency called BMG Consulting. A 3-year visa would only have cost £551 if they applied directly through the UK's government website. What? So they're being... So because they pay through a consultancy and not through the government website, they paid... They paid £6,000 to £10,000 for their visa. The DHSC said that companies should not work with recruitment agents that charge job seekers a fee. They're being scammed here big time, if this is all true. BMG's director, Sunil Thomas, said the company has not taken any funds towards the recruitment of care workers in the UK and claims that any money paid would have been to sub-agents acting without his knowledge in India. Prestwick Care said it's now suspended all new arrangements with BMG Consultancy. Yeah, and they'll probably set up another company in its name, with a different name. The report also has concerns about how low staffing was affecting the standards of care at Addison Court. There are no rules on how many staff a care home should employ. Prestwick Care said on night shifts between 8 o'clock and 8 p.m. to 8 a.m., one nurse can provide ample care for 54 residents. They are supported by a team of carers, some of whom can administer medicine. However, an agency nurse who covers the night shift told the reporters that it was difficult to manage and that some residents were not always receiving their medication on time. Administering drugs late can have serious consequences for some conditions, for instance, insulin injections for diabetes or medicines for Parkinson's disease. Of course, if you don't have these medicines, it's severe consequences. The agency nurse said she once tried to raise concerns about staffing levels with Bono Mahara. She said that Mr. Mahara swore at him and he was dismissive in his response, a claim Mr. Mahara denies. Other staff at Addison Court also told the undercover reporter that concerns had been raised about the lack of staffing, but that the management were not interested. The workers' concern had been echoed by local health professionals. A GP with patients at Addison Court, who asked to remain anonymous, told Panorama she saw a trend with certain patients not getting their medication on time. She said that the staff recognised that care was not always adequate, but they felt there was no point in bringing their concerns to management because they would either somehow make it their fault or just try and sweep it under the carpet. The manager of Addison Court says it's completely untrue that she failed to investigate complaints and says she has a positive relationship with staff at their home. Panorama investigates a care home short of staff where external medical professionals seeking residential neglect oversee staff complain about being exploited. NHS nurse Kathy Mucken visited the home once a week until last year. She said the nurses she spoke to were unhappy. She felt she couldn't leave. She thought staff were not escalating concerns because she did not want to upset the company and had to leave the country. Mrs. Morgan said she was so worried about some residents that she made 33 safeguarding alerts over a 2-year period to the local authority, Gateshead Council. One of those alerts was about a resident who says she died after being left for 72 hours with severe constipation. She believes that the death was preventable. They, the staff, should be speaking to the GPs and saying, look, we still haven't had a bowel motion. They should be getting medical advice. It's negligent. Gateshead Council told Panorama it was unable to share the outcome of the safeguarding concerns because it would involve releasing highly sensitive personal information. It says each alert was responded to and managed in the best interest of the resident based on the evidence provided at that time. In its latest published account, Prestwick Care's parent company Mahara Care Homes Limited made a profit of $9.3 million in the financial year of 2021-2022. Made themselves a nice hefty profit. Chartered accountant Vic Kohia said that the margin, about 40%, is very high for a care home. He thinks that the exploitation for this may be that the company is spending less than its competitors on staff. That's kind of worrying, he says, because these kind of patients need staff and care, otherwise they're at risk of fall or injuries. Of course they are. In December 2022, Prestwick Care had its license to sponsor overseas staff suspended by the Home Office. No reason had been given for the action. Okay, so they had it suspended last year. Following the news, Bonta Mahana called Addison Court's Indian staff to attend a meeting where he tried to persuade them to stay. He implied that he was willing to overlook and cover up any mistakes they made. If you work for the NHS, one mistake and you will be reported to the NMC, Nursery and Midwife Council, straight away, he said he is recorded saying. We will always protect our staff. We will always say this mistake is a training issue. This protection isn't allowed outside. Seeing the footage of the meeting, Katie Mahong said she was shocked at how he appeared to be trying to scare staff into staying at the care home. The Home Office is now fully revoked Prestwick Care licence to sponsor overseas staff following safeguarding reports, including from the BBC. The regulator, the Care Quality Commission (CQC), has suspended Addison Court's good rating. In a statement to the BBC, the CQC said it was closely monitoring Addison Court along with other locations registered to this provider. It added that if there were immediate concerns about people's safety, we will use our enforcement powers to keep them safe. Prestwick Care said any suggestion there being systematic wrongdoing or bad practices is unfair and inaccurate, and said that the safety of the well-being of staff remains paramount and that it is fully committed to thoroughly investigating all concerns raised and taking appropriate actions as necessary. Sorry, I had to take a deep breath there because this really infuriates me. This guy, this makes me sick that they would do this to their staff. That they made record profits. They exploited these people from what all this evidence seems to me. Scam. It is an absolute scandal. This is. They come to the UK to work, and they're made to sign these contracts, pay extortionate amount of money just to come here. And when you find if they and imagine them finding out, oh, you could have only paid £350 here for the visa, for a 3-year visa, instead of paying 8 to 10 grand from through a private company. And then you get told you have to sign this contract if you want to stay in the UK, or we'll ship you back. And then in that situation, if you don't read the full details and you say, oh, there's these other things in there that they don't tell you about, read the terms and conditions, guys. There's a very, very fine line about reading terms and conditions, and that. I generally feel sorry for these people if all this has been found to be true. It's really disheartening, to say the least, because not only are the staff being suffered here, but the people in these situations are being suffering as well, because they're being handled by the most minimum basic of levels, so that the companies behind this are making the most amount of profit. But this is the thing with private companies. They always prioritize profit over anything else, which is why more regulation needs to be done. I mean, there needs to be more regulation when it comes to private care sector, for the private care sector, or maybe it should be gone altogether. What do you guys make of this story? What do you think should be done? Should there be more regulation? Should the private companies have a fair share in the care sector at all? Maybe the state should be running it all. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. Hit the like button, we greatly appreciate it. Share this across social media, and hit that bell notification icon to be notified of when I upload another video. And subscribe, because it does really support the channel. And if you want to financially support me, you can also do so by buying me a coffee or joining me on Patreon for additional content. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.